second dimension is membership, which is really about how sponsors can access the database and how they interact with that database. And essentially what they're trying to do is really ride in on the emotional relationship that the club has with their sponsors. Something like 75% of our membership base have said that they would support our major sponsors, and in fact they would look for them at the point of sale. So what that says is that as soon as you become a major sponsor, you have this army of people who are prepared to support you because of the way you've supported their football club. And then it's a matter really of the sponsor trying to leverage that in a number of different ways. But the membership database really presents two opportunities. It presents really a B2C, so it's business to consumer type marketing, but it also represents an opportunity business to business. And we have a range of groups, of interest groups that and supporter groups that have come together over the last little while. Some of them have been around for a long time, like our Coterie group, our Mates of Melbourne, which is a more recent business networking group, Women of Melbourne, Devil's Advocate, and there's a whole range of them. They provide us with the ability to say to our sponsors, okay, by engaging with these particular stakeholders, you can actually start to build some business networks and obviously generate business. So the membership base already expresses a strong desire to support the club and the club sponsors, and then that dissects really into two opportunities, two mainstream opportunities, which is the B2C and the B2B. The third dimension is really, or pillar, is community, and it's obviously very important for us at the Melbourne Football Club from the point of view of really building our base, our supporter base. As many of you would know, our supporter base is the lowest in the AFL, and so the community engagement, the community programs that we've undertaken, while they have a very strong strategic bent in terms of developing our supporter base, we also believe that it has a substantial benefit back into the organisation through things like player development, and that's something that this administration is very strong on. They're very keen that the players are involved in these community programs, not just because it's something that we need to do from a strategic need of the club, but also because it exposes them really to issues and programs that they're going to make them turn them into better people. The simple principle is that the players walk out of this club as better human beings as when they walked in, and that's a fairly lofty ambition, but it's one that we're very serious about achieving. So our community program really provides a commercial bent, but it's driven also from a philosophical desire really to develop our players. Clearly, Casey plays an important part of what we're doing at community. You know, Casey's got 250,000 people. It's a relatively young demographic and therefore has potential for us, but it also has about 20,000 small to medium-sized businesses. So again, as you see with the B2C, B2B, Casey gives us an opportunity really to impact a very large group of people, and also a very large group of small to medium-sized enterprises that exist out there. The other very important strategic relationship that we have is, of course, with the City of Melbourne. In part, that's facilitated by our relationship with the MCC, but also by a recently announced relationship, joint partnership, if you like, with the Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation, where we will be looking at a range of community programs that are undertaken in the City of Melbourne, and that we will support with our players' involvement. So we're essentially looking at Casey as sort of being our new territory, a geographic territory, but we're also in the short term and for the long term, anchored ourselves really very much as part of the City of Melbourne, and we're looking at a range of initiatives in this area. Another two key partnerships that we have in this space, the Victorian Women's Football League, which is enjoying enormous growth, 400% growth year on year. And as it turns out, there's a lot of this growth is coming out of Casey as well, so there's great synergy between those two. We're doing a lot of things with the Victorian Women's Football League, and that will continue. That relationship, I'm pretty sure, will continue for many, many years. The other relationship is, of course, trachoma, which I think some of you would be aware of. And that was launched during our recent trip to Indomoo, and then we went to play at Darwin, and of course to Tiwi post-game. But the ambition here is really to educate young Indigenous kids to have clean faces, and as a consequence of just simply washing their faces, we hope that within 5 years we might eliminate trachoma from the Indigenous communities around Australia. So there's a lot of things happening in this space, some very, very exciting and very successful programs. One of the key things we've done here is a literacy program called Read Like a Demon, which has been incredibly well received. It has delivered some outstanding outcomes, so much so that that program now is being looked at how we might roll it out nationally. There's been a lot of interest both domestically, by that I mean obviously in the Melbourne metropolitan area, and indeed across Australia. Lastly, brand, and this is somewhat of a, I guess, a much undervalued aspect of sponsorship. And the first one, as I mentioned earlier, is really about association with the game. This is Australia's most successful game. It has revenues in excess, well, approaching about $1 billion. It is probably something like twice the size of its nearest competitor, and with the broadcast rights coming up for renewal in the next 12 months, the game will take another leap forward. But the game itself positions itself particularly well. It has always been incredibly socially responsible. It is led in many, many areas. So by associating with a particular club, in fact, you're getting the halo effect across the game and how well the game is managed, both at a social as well as a financial level. The other one, of course, is the club. And of course, different clubs, I guess, position themselves differently. I guess we have been seen as a bit of a top end of town type club, but the reality is that I think while we still are to some extent that, and perhaps we'll never break that stereotype, the reality is it's an incredibly inclusive club. It's one that I guess Jim has been responsible for opening up the doors and really encouraging people to become part of it. So that tends to shape what this club is all about. It tends to reflect certain values, and I think they're, you know, we would say that they're very inclusive values and values which most corporations would see a lot of positive in being associated with. So that's in a snapshot. That's really the if you like, the value proposition that we offer sponsors. Some sponsors will obviously gravitate to this or a combination of these. Others will start to see that community is more important to them. But effectively, what we do is we sit down with the sponsors and work out exactly what are their business objectives and what mix of these four pillars is best suited to their needs. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight into our sponsorship area. It's, as I said earlier, it's a fairly important part of what we do at a footy club, not just selling it, but obviously servicing all that. But that at least gives you an insight into how we construct everything. Hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to speaking to you again sometime in the near future.